Hey guys, so it is the 2-year anniversary of the first conversation that I ever had with the first conversation where there was any interest expressed that I ever had with my now fiance. And somebody left me a comment asking me how I let go of my specific person manifestation without any regrets. And to be honest with you, I really kind of regret ever talking about a specific person manifestation here, because the way other people talk about going about that and the motivations that people have for that were not at all similar to mine at all. I mean, just not at all. I can't say that enough. Not at all. The place that I was coming from is different than the vast majority of the people on here. The drive to do it was sparked more by curiosity than by a big desire to have that person back. I've manifested every other thing, and I was like, oh, people are doing this. And I kind of, in a minute, I'll talk about it. It was kind of an accident to begin with. So I hate to even bring that onto this channel, because what people are doing with that, I think, is counterproductive for them. I don't think it's helpful. And if you're doing that, I think you're probably going to come to these conclusions naturally on your own, and it's no big deal and whatever. Or you'll manifest your person back and I'll be wrong, and then you can leave me a bunch of shitty comments. Or you can pretend that your person came back and leave me a bunch of shitty comments. I'll never know the difference. But so I wanted to talk about, one, where was I coming from? You know, this is part of why it didn't bother me to let it go. So the specific person that I ended up being the object of my manifestation was a person that I had had a short 4-month-long relationship with a few months earlier. I was the one who left that relationship because that person, in my opinion, had issues that were affecting our relationship. And I also saw in myself through that relationship that I was not fully where I needed to be yet. That was clear. I was still under promising and over delivering on everything in the relationship. You know, people who knew me were like, why are you doing so much work? You know, stuff like that. I realized there's something I still don't feel the way I need to feel in order to have the right relationship. I still don't see myself as valuable enough for somebody to, you know, be the way that I want somebody to be with me. So that became clear in that relationship. And in the interim, between that relationship and the time that I even started reading about people doing specific person manifestations, I had some major life-changing, realizations. I've talked about that on this channel. I don't want to go way into that now. Basically, I realized that I had a belief that I was kind of inherently flawed and bad, and that was coming from a specific incident. I had never put two and two together between this specific life event and this way I felt about myself. When I made the connection, I realized that I had an error in judgment at a very young age about that. It completely erased that entire thing in like a matter of a week. As soon as I was aware of that whole thing, I noticed it as it was coming up in my daily life and had this tremendous sense of relief over and over again. That's not true. That's not true. This habitual thinking I have about myself, that's from this thing, and I have already realized that's not true. Within like a week, my entire life had changed. If you're looking at your life through a lens of I'm flawed and unlovable, deep down, no matter how good I get, you know, above that, deep down, if you're living your life like that, changing that, you will be reborn when that goes away. So that's what had happened between that 4-month relationship with the specific person to be and reading about the specific person manifestation stuff, which I thought was a little nuts, honestly, when I first read about it. And so what happened, how he became the specific person, was I was using my imagination and stuff the way you do with this new sense of myself, trying to imagine what the ideal person for me would feel like. What would that be like? Just trying to imagine it, trying to come up with a scene. And I just could not feel anything. And the reason for that was that this was only a couple of months after I had broken up with that person who became the SP. And while I was largely over that, I wasn't like dying to get, I had come to the conclusion I really did the right thing with that. And I wasn't mourning over it or thinking about it, but I'm the type of person where if I really love somebody, I can't break up with them and then immediately go to somebody else. There's a grace period in there where it's sort of like, No feelings for anybody else, not really feelings for the previous person. And so, so in my scene, my recent ex pops into the scene, and I really, really loved this person. It just, in a really kind of unselfish way. He was younger than me. I had just sort of feelings about him that, I just really cared for him and wanted him to be okay. And some of that was coming from like I'm much more mature than you. And I just really liked who he was. I just, generally, I just really liked his personality. And I thought he was just a really decent, good person. And that kind of radiated off of him. He was a wonderful person to be around. It was just great spending time with him most of the time. And so he popped into the scene, and I felt something. So I was like, well, why don't I just sort of like, why don't I switch this up a little bit? Instead of making this all about what I want from him, because we were great together, I thought, other than certain problems that he had. He, I believe, had a substance abuse problem. And he also had some issues with the way he viewed himself that caused him to behave in the outer world in a way that I did not find acceptable for my eventual spouse. I was just, it was one of those things where I was like, man, if you could just see how great you are, if you could just understand that you've got nothing to prove to anybody, you would stop under promising and over delivering. He did the exact same thing that I did in our relationship with everyone else. Which is funny. That's how these things come together and stay together. We were at the same level in this one regard that kept us in this relationship together. But anyway, I just, in my mind, I'm like, why don't, I want to envision him, by the way. This wasn't a big thought out process. I just kind of did it. But I was like, well, we were great together except for these things. So I'm going to change these things. I'm not going to change the fact that he's a daredevil. I'm not going to, like, that's, I don't like, but that's up to him. I don't want to change him because I loved him the way he was. I don't want to change him. But what I do want to change is about him for his own benefit, not mine, is I want him to feel secure. I want whatever is causing his substance abuse issues to be resolved for him, because none of this is pleasant for him. He's not happy. And these things being resolved for him can happen outside of the scope of me being involved with him at all. And then if those things change, and in my mind, this was absolutely true, if he changed those things, I felt confident that we would, meet up again. That I didn't need to necessarily, that to me is the way this whole thing works. I didn't feel a big need to make some big, strong intention about us getting back together. I just felt like, you know what, if I do this and it works, he will definitely reach out to me again. We will definitely reconnect. And then if it's right, and it's right for me at that point, there will be a relationship. I didn't make it about me. And I really, honestly, after I did the manifesting part of it with him, where I just imagined, what I did was imagine him telling me how happy he was, specifically about certain things. I imagined him telling me that something about, the substance issue either being resolved, or if it wasn't like an addiction, being controlled or something like that. I didn't have a big opinion about what he would need to do for that. I wasn't like, he needs to quit. So I imagined him telling me that. And I also imagined I imagined the feeling that he would be feeling. I imagined the feeling of him feeling peaceful, secure with himself, just really happy and whole, like he didn't have to prove anything to anybody. He didn't have to change himself in order to be good enough. I just felt I felt sort of that change in his vibe. He already had this great vibe. I just imagined that vibe, plus how awesome that would be if he felt that way about himself. And that's really all I did. I did it for a couple of days, like Neville says, and it was done. I was like, that's good. I feel a shift. I feel that whatever needs to happen because of that has happened. And so that was like, I don't know, the very beginning of this channel, maybe like a month before I started making this channel. And, I don't want to act like I didn't give a shit about it. I definitely did. I found things about it frustrating, especially from the manifestation standpoint. I'm not a person that does that kind of thing. Like if I intend for something to happen. I expect to see it happening. And I think with this type of thing with another person, you don't really know how it's going to play out. And that to me was very frustrating. And quickly I was like, I don't want to focus on this. I don't like the way this feels. I don't like feeling like now I have to be waiting for something to happen with this relationship, because I don't even know that I want to be in it. I don't know how long it's going to take for him to get to the point where he would be what I want him to be. And I also don't like the fact that he was a daredevil and other things like that. I was like, this isn't a sure thing for me from my end. So I don't want to focus on it. I had a conversation with him a few months later where he reminded me of a lot of things about him that I don't like. He invited me to go out for a drink and talk. I said I didn't want to. I don't know. For me, it just quickly became clear that, maybe that was just for him, or maybe that was just out of curiosity, and I just don't have the patience, and I didn't have the desire for him specifically to see it through for God knows how long. And then maybe at the point where he was ready for me, I was just like, man, I don't want this anymore. Like, this just isn't, it's not for me. It's not for me. If you want to spend your time that way, that's up to you. And I have no judgment on that. It's entirely up to you what you do with your time. But if you're going to do this stuff, I would do it from the place where you are already completely good with yourself. That to me is a prerequisite for any of this. If you're not stable, if you haven't gotten to the point where you're, so for me, there was an aspect of this that needed to be selfless in order for it to be genuine. I can't imagine somebody else being happy just so that I can have them. I don't know. That doesn't work for me. It just doesn't. It had to be selfless. It had to be, I'm envisioning this person in their highest, best, happiest state. The best I can muster up. The best feeling I can feel. That has to be a gift for this person for me. Because if I truly imagine them in their happiest state, and that does not involve me, and then I choose not to do it, what does that say about me? That's not where I am. So, I would look at yourself first and just say, hey, am I where I want to be? Am I the person that I want to be? And then I would look at your SP and say, if this person was healed of all of the issues that they have that caused them to do whatever I didn't like in the relationship, to be distant, to be afraid of intimacy, to abuse me. I mean, you got to get out of that, man. I don't think I can stomach anymore saying anything about abusers. I think you just have to get away from them. But if you look at a person, even somebody who's abused you, and you say, okay, separate from me, I'm going to imagine this person being completely healed. And there's just all the things about them that make them the way that they are, that cause us to not be together. I'm going to imagine them free of that selflessly. I'm going to imagine myself at that state too. And, just let go of all of this earthly garbage, about who's better than who, or who owes who what, or, whatever revenge I have to get on this, just like all these thoughts that come up that are totally natural and normal, I think, for most people. If you can focus on the SP selflessly, I think you will find it does something very interesting for you. It makes you feel amazing, and it releases the need for them. And, it kind of, I think, brings you into the understanding that it wasn't just you involved in that relationship. That person, has their own issues. If you can imagine them in a much better state than they are, then you can imagine that they're operating from a state lower than that. And, I don't know. I think doing all this just tends to release a lot of the hanging on that seems to come with these SP things. So to wrap up the question, I let it go without any regrets at all. And I realized pretty quickly, and I already knew this, but I realized pretty quickly that what I really truly wanted, and if I was saying I can have anything I want, which I was, what I really wanted was a relationship that was good from the beginning, that didn't have a prior iteration that had gone wrong, that didn't have any history to, become fearful of having a repeat of, any of that. I just didn't want any of that. Like, I just, ain't nobody got time for that. I just didn't want that. And I also wanted things in the relationship that weren't there with that specific person. There was a major component of the relationship that was not there that I cannot imagine having lived without. And I wasn't about to try to manifest that. And I just let it go. I just realized eventually that this isn't what I wanted. It was never really what I wanted. You know, I manifested this from a point where I still couldn't really imagine being with anybody else because I had loved this person. And it was just an ill-conceived idea to begin with. And that's great. I gave this guy the gift of using my intense creative power to view him in a certain way. And that's good. And amazingly, after I'd let that go, within about 3 weeks, I had a conversation with the SP. A long conversation where we talked about a lot of stuff. He said a lot of things to me that were very validating. He told me, you know, essentially, he thought I had been right about a lot of the things I viewed as being a problem in the relationship, and that he had thought I was perfect for him, and I thought I was amazing, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you know that I thought you were the perfect person for me. He said all these things that made me feel, if there was any lingering doubt, anything left where I felt like maybe I wasn't good enough for that relationship, you know, if there was anything left, I don't even remember I just remember him telling me this, and it felt really good to hear it. But what was amazing was that he was talking about how he had come into the awareness of all this stuff. I don't know if it was through me during our relationship or if it was because of my imagination. Who knows? There's no way to prove it, but he basically said, I understand these things about myself. I understand that other people have seen me this way. You know, I understand that this is really what I need to be focusing on in my life. And he used specific terms that I know I never used with him, that I had been thinking, you know, that demonstrated to me he really understood what I saw. And so that's fucking amazing. So now he's going to be able to, you know, that was 2 years ago. Now he's going to be able to, maybe has in the meantime, rise above that stuff, which is, I mean, what more could I hope for another human being? Like, it's amazing to me. And so that was pretty much it. After Matt and I got together, which was like, I don't know, days later, I didn't talk to him anymore. He texted me a few times. One thing that I hated that he did was you would text him and he would like not reply for like an entire day to like a mundane text, like while I was his girlfriend. It was like he just didn't check his phone, or he had so many social contacts that you would get lost in the shuffle, which I found so irritating. And after that text conversation where he was telling me I was perfect for him, later, you know, I would have been open to being friends with him, I guess, or something, but we had some of those text conversations where like I said something that required a reply faster than a day as far as I'm concerned, and I just thought, you know what, I'm done with this. So he texted me a few more times. I didn't respond, and that's where that's at today. He texted me on my birthday 6 months ago, and I didn't reply to it. So he's still kind of around, but he was the type of guy that had a Rolodex with everybody's name in it, made sure he told everybody in the world happy birthday. So I don't take the fact that he messaged me happy birthday last year on my birthday as any big thing. His phone probably just popped up, hey, it's Neville Goddess's birthday today. Wish Neville Goddess a happy birthday. So that was one of the things I really didn't like about him. I'm not about to change that kind of shit about another person. That's up to other people to figure out and change. I don't like to do that stuff selfishly. But so this is a very long video, but I wanted to also, you know what, I'll make a different video about Matt. I'm going to make another video. I just want to talk quickly about some of the things about Matt that that were part of the manifestation of my ultimate romantic fulfillment. That were like little Easter eggs that I didn't even expect to happen. But I'll save that for another video since this is so long. So I hope that that answered the question about how I let go of my SP relationship without giving a shit. And I hope you can do the same if that's appropriate. So love ya. Have a great day.